The game begins with the protagonist Titus, now known as the Deathwatch Black Shield Nullers, being deployed onto the jungle world Kadaku as part of a Deathwatch squad, with the mission to launch a virus bomb in order to weaken the Tyranid swarm and turn the tide in battle. But before the team could reach the planet's surface, they get hit by a swarm of flying Tyranids and crash their ship. Titus, who got separated from the others, tries to reunite with his squad but gets heavily wounded in a battle with the Carnifex, a heavily armored Tyranid unit. While Titus was closing with his life, an airship from the Ultramarines emerged from the sky to recover their dying brother's body. Shortly after that, the first division of the Ultramarines, full of elite soldiers including their captain, arrives at Kadaku. They successfully hold off the Tyranids long enough for the Deathwatch soldiers to retreat and leave the planet to the all-devouring Tyranid swarm. In the meantime, the severely wounded former Captain Titus arrives at the ship where he has to undergo the soul-called Rubicon Primaris, which is best described as an upgrade surgery for the quote-unquote old model of Space Marines. The operation is successful and the now enhanced Titus wakes up to the news that he from now on, after a decade, will once again serve as an Ultramarine of the 2nd Division, but now as a lieutenant instead of their captain. Further, he was promised that he is no longer suspected to be under the influence of chaos, and that his dishonorable service in the Deathwatch will be wiped from the records. Even though officially redeemed, Titus was still met with skepticism by some of his brothers, especially by the man who now holds the rank he once possessed himself, Captain Sevastus Acheran, who, despite his doubts, grants Titus his new rank of lieutenant, and by that, the command over his own squad, consisting of Sergeant Gadriel and Brother Sharon, which also grew suspicious of their mysterious new lieutenant, who was asked to keep his past as a captain a secret. Captain Acheran informs Titus that his company is currently fighting to evacuate the remaining humans left on Kadaku, and tasks them to support the Astra Militarum, the regular human military forces, with their mission to regain control over the planet's orbital defense systems so that the Tyranid hive ships can be destroyed and the evacuating forces gain some much needed additional time for their mission. After succeeding in their mission, defeating hordes of Tyranids in the process, Titus and his squad is being tasked with escorting an Archmagus, who refuses to leave until the scientific data from his lab has been retrieved, so the Marines decide to escort him to his research facility. After uploading the data, Nordic takes his leave, but his gunship crashes into a Tyranid-infested area, and Titus' squad again rush to his aid, only to find everyone to be dead already. And to top it all off, after investigating further, the group notices the ship's crew did not fall prey to the Tyranids, and instead was slain by forces of chaos. The mission then comes to a sudden end when a mysterious object causes Titus to lose his consciousness. After coming back from his slumber, Titus wastes no time to inform his captain about the occurrences on Kadaku and his concern about the discovered traces of chaos. Despite the lieutenant still not being in the best shape, his squad is ordered to locate Nozik's apprentice on the hive planet Averex, so that he can continue where his master's studies found a forced ending. Following another successful reduction of the Tyranid population, the super soldiers reach a facility of the Adaptus Mechanicus. At their destination, they not only find the location of their target, they also come across some documents that reveal the truth behind the so-called Project Aurora that Nozick contributed to, which happens to be the construction of a warp-based weapon that utilizes a reconstructed version of a Chaos artifact Titus destroyed 100 years ago during the events of the first game. Having experienced the terrible consequences of the artifact's use, Titus takes the first chance he gets to confront his captain about the news, and demanded the immediate cancellation of the project. But he refuses and informs his lieutenant that the current ruler of the Ultramarines, Primarch Gilliman, ordered the weapon's construction himself. Back to their mission again, the Space Marines find themselves confronted by the Chaos Marines called the Thousand Suns. After rearranging the facial structure of many of those traitors, they finally arrive at their target's location. On their way back, the now former pupil reveals to his squadmates that Titus used to be their division's captain and was believed to be dead after holding the artifact at the end of the first game, which further grows the distrust they already had in their new lieutenant. Back from their mission, Titus once more reveals his concerns to their captain and asks him to inform their chapter master about the truth behind Project Aurora. But his request gets declined again, this time because the relay needed to transmit a message is overrun by Tyranids, and all messages are being blocked by the Chaos forces anyway. Titus then immediately offers to regain control over the relay himself, while another squad would eliminate the creature leading the Tyranid swarms, which the captain agrees to. On their way to their objective, the super soldiers experience the other squad's success firsthand when the Tyranids they fought suddenly lose control and stop being a threat. Inside the relay, the group comes across Neoma, a so-called astropath that is capable of transmitting messages throughout the galaxy. She offers to send the message for them, but as soon as she begins the transmission, she begins accusing Titus of being a traitor who wants to lure Calagar into a trap, which results in Gadriel attacking his lieutenant. But when Sharon shot Neoma and revealed that the Chaos Sorcerer Lord Imura tricked them, All of them focus their aggression on the newly recognized threat, forcing Imura to flee. Following their return, Titus is informed that the Chaos Marines are attacking the cemetery world Demirium, where Project Aurora takes place. Before making their way to Demirium himself, Titus' squadmates decide to make up with him by expressing their newfound trust in their lieutenant. After fighting through dozens of Chaos traitors, the team finally arrives at the location of Project Aurora, where they learn that Demirium actually is a tomb world of another species called the Necrons, whose technology the Mechanicus used in the development of the warp weapon. Imura tries to interfere with the constructions of Project Aurora, but ends up being transported to the realm of Chaos himself. But this turns out to be another trick when Imura returns, revealing that he manipulated the Mechanicus to reconstruct the artifact for himself. He then kills the prodigy Luis and takes off with the reconstructed energy source. Back on the surface, the Marines find a Necron obelisk that emerged from the ground and opened a giant portal which allows thousands of Chaos troops, including a so-called Lord of Change, a giant bird-like creature, to arrive at the former Necron planet. A ridiculous cinematic battle begins and the Ultramarines come up with the plan to destroy the smaller pillars, fueling the main one with energy. On their way, the squad almost falls victim to the overwhelming amount of Chaos troops, but gets saved by Space Marine reinforcements led by the chapter master of the Ultramarines, Manios Kalga himself. After destroying the last pillar, the Ultramarines begin fighting and pushing back the armies of Chaos, and Imura, together with the Lord of Change, use a portal to flee into the realm of Chaos, unleashing a spell that seemingly froze everyone engaged in the battle in time, except Kalga and of course Titus and his squad. The chapter master immediately rushes after Imura and the beast, with the other three following shortly after. Reuniting with their leader, the four manage to defeat the Lord of Change while Imura tries to make the power of the artifact his own. But thanks to the distraction of the chapter master, Titus gains access to the artifact and manages to reverse the polarity of its power, causing Imura to explode and pushing back the forces of Chaos, leaving the Ultramarines victorious. After awakening outside of the Chaos realm, Titus is met by the cheerful faces of his brothers and Kalga himself, who ask Titus, who has proven himself worthy, to join him to fight along his side. And this marks the end of Space Marine 2's story.